senior executive of Chinese telecoms giant Huawei has been arrested in Canada and she faces extradition to the United States. Meng Wanzhou was reportedly detained in Vancouver. Huawei said it was not aware of any wrongdoing. The reason hasn't been confirmed, but the company is said to have been investigated over alleged violations of sanctions against Iran. Well, for more on this, Alistair Sanford joins me in the studio now. Good morning to you, Alistair.
Good morning, Belle.
So what more do we know about this arrest at this stage?
Well, some of the details are fairly thin. We do know that Meng Wanzhou, who is the chief financial officer for Huawei and also the daughter of the company's founder, was arrested on December the 1st in Vancouver. The Canadian authorities, the Ministry of Justice, says there'll be a court hearing tomorrow. Huawei says she was detained when changing flights. And that the charges emanate from New York, and she does face now possible extradition to the US. Now, Huawei is a Chinese telecoms giant, one of the largest makers of network equipment. We don't know about the precise details of the accusations, but media reports and other sources in the US are saying that it's in relation to alleged violations of sanctions against Iran, as you've said. And the New York Times goes further, saying that there's potential violations concerning other countries as well. As for the reactions, well, Huawei says we've got no information on this. We're not aware of any wrongdoing. A particularly terse statement from the Chinese embassy in Canada saying they resolutely oppose this arrest and calling for Meng's immediate release. There's been no comment from the US authorities, but some legal opinion saying, well, this could be correct because when Chinese companies get access to US markets, they sign up to not violating sanctions concerning Iran. And of course, the Trump administration has now reimposed all sanctions against Iran as of last month following the withdrawal from the 2015 nuclear deal.
Well, let's look at those wider sort of global implications. What does it mean for trade, for example, trade war?
Well, of course, we've got the, up until recently, escalating trade war between the US and China. There was some relief, of course, at the G20 when Donald Trump and Xi Jinping struck that 90-day truce, but there are now fears that this could provoke new tensions. There's been some turbulence on the US and Asian markets. And of course, we're not just talking about trade, but technology and national security. There are big security concerns in the West generally about China and technology, and fears that some of these firms are linked to the government in Beijing. Now, Huawei says there's no government control over its company, but it is, of course, one of the biggest tech firms, and there are fears that Beijing may use companies like Huawei to get access to the new generation networks and then use it for spying purposes. There have been several US cases legal cases against Chinese firms, and in the UK, the BT Group just this week has removed Huawei equipment from some of its operations. So there are fears that there are potential dilemmas ahead over this because China expects the US, if the trade war eases, they will expect more access to US markets. But of course, there are fears of security, and this escalation, if we have an extradition of one of the major business figures to the US, that can only crank up tensions further.